Welcome back to the Manor, Entropians. Julian McBain here, and today we are on my second Mayhem run, and we're only an hour in. That's right, I decided to go 2 for 2, see if I couldn't improve my score. The first score I had was 58-56. I've actually been knocked down. I started on, I ranked 17th when I first did a score, and now I'm 19th. So, better than when I was on rank 2, but yeah, definitely not on the top scoring. So I do want to give it one more shot, because I've got the time to, and I don't have that time usually. So we'll see how that goes. But what I really wanted to talk about today was, you know, as I've been talking a lot about kind of like the philosophy that's back of this game and of all video games really, because it's like I had mentioned earlier, we can see video games as a sort of dream, but in reality it is a sort of dream, right? It's a fantasy that we're allowed to play out in a space that's very similar to the real world in a lot of ways. But more than that, it's actually art mimicking life in a lot of ways, because all life really is a series of games, and you know, you agree to play by a certain set of rules, and in doing so, you are able to interact with other people who are playing the same or a very similar game around you. And so we've all got this game that we play that we call life, and it's actually very much like the game of life that I think it was Milton Bradley who put out the game of life so many years ago, and it's quite ironic that it works so well as a game, because that's what life really is a series of games. And there's some utility to that, understanding and really seeing life like that, and I think that's why gamification in the modern age has become so popular, because now that, you know, we've discovered what triggers the human mind to want to do things, and we love to accumulate trophies, and we love to accumulate achievements, and we like levels, right? We love levels. We like badges, achievements, achievement unlocked. You know, that's why when you get an achievement in World of Warcraft, a special thing sounds. And when you level up, a special, you know, you get a special sound. And every time you complete a quest, the special sound goes off, because it triggers a euphoric response. The endorphin rush. And it may only be for a short time, and it may only be small, but it's that endorphin rush that we really strive for, because we have the accomplishment and the acknowledgement that we accomplished something. And so I think it's kind of interesting that we have a game like Entropia Universe that's so hardcore skill based. And, you know, oh, when did that happen? I broke 100,000 skills, folks. Holy shit. I broke 100,000 skill points. Achievement unlocked. Okay, so back on topic. You know, it's hardcore skills based, so we just see these skill bars slowly build up over time, and that builds, and every time one of these skill bars builds up, it builds up this skilled bar. But the funny thing is that's what we're looking for. Why? It's amazing the number of people who will sit there and watch a progress bar. Don't believe me? Watch any new player to a real-time strategy game. Think about that for a second. What do? They click build and they just stare at the progress bar. When you download a new MMORPG, or when you're waiting for things to update, what do? You sit there and you often stare at the progress bar waiting for it to be done. We love progress bars, because it shows exactly where we are. And we like progress bars in real life too. I mean, even Domino's uses a progress bar for your pizzas now. Don't believe me? Download the app. Or go order it online. There's a progress bar by the time you're done. And I mean, just, it's very striking that we do things that way. I don't see, it's not obvious to me why we would be so interested in progress bars. Other than it shows us exactly where we are in relation to where we want to be. And we always like to be oriented in a way where we know where we are and where we are in comparison to what our goal is. And I think that's why those of us who are goal-oriented really enjoy things like that, and those of us who try to avoid goal orientation don't. Because if you don't want to lay out yourself in a way where goal orientation is important, you know, you don't want to know where you are, because it doesn't, that way you don't have to know when you failed. Now, people like that don't generally play games anyway. And those who do play games, if you're a gamer and you aren't goal oriented in your real life, take 10 minutes and look yourself in the damn mirror and come up with some goals. Because we have the best opportunity to make the most of ourselves, because we already know how to take a goal and achieve it. We do it in video games every goddamn night. Seriously, like, take a minute and think about it. Especially if you're playing this game. To make a concerted effort to do a 15-hour endurance hunt. Or to accomplish any of the old Iron missions. Just the puny mission, the first mission, the first Iron mission you would ever take, was 16,600 mobs. And I'm willing to bet the majority of my listeners have accomplished it. And if you haven't accomplished it, you've probably been playing longer than there have been Iron missions, which is an achievement on its own. So, you know, it's time for us as gamers to really put our shit together and really show people what true goal orientation can be. And that's a global for $65.99. That's $6.59. It's basically $6.60 for those of you who are in the audience who are not familiar with the exchange rate. You know, it really amazes me. Like, this is an actual surprise to me. The number of gamers who allow their real life to just atrophy into nothing. We are some of the most tenacious, goal-oriented, just stubborn, and our ability to solve problems. You put all that together and you've got the makings of a fantastic manager or member of a team. But you've got to be willing to step back and realize that, you know, in order to get there, you're going to have to put the effort in. And I think that's why there's so many, a lot of the people that I see playing Entropia Universe are professionals, business owners, engineers, veterans, you know, people who work in high-level goal-oriented environments, because it takes a lot of drive to play a game like Entropia Universe and be successful at it. And that's key. It's not just playing the game, but it's and be successful at it. You know, this game is most likely the grindiest game in existence. It's not Dark Soulsian in difficulty. It's not, you know, there's no sharp danger curve. The controls are not complex. I mean, hell, I'm not even doing anything right now. I simply hit the F key and I'm waiting for me to take out the mob. Although when you're fighting like at the edge of your abilities, then yes, there's a definite difficulty and finesse to it. I'm fighting well within my abilities, or within the area I'm supposed to be hunting in, because my Nerc punishes you if you don't. Which is kind of unfortunate, really. But I think that the design function around that whole idea is that the biggest challenge of Entropia Universe is to find the balance between, you know, your skill level, the mob you're facing, and the profit you can extract from it. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, fighting a mob that's a higher level than you quote-unquote should be isn't beneficial. And in the long run, I think it still brings you a profit, but all that profit is being dumped into skills. If you want to get skills, go fight something that's like at the edge of your level, and just watch your skill levels go up drastically. And I seriously mean that. Like try it. Find something that's at the edge of your level. You're gonna watch your pet card flow relatively downward, but your skills are going to build up much faster. In whatever weapon profession choice you have. And I think that's what I've done for the majority of my time in Entropia Universe is I've found the edge of what my equipment and my level can do, and I have made an effort with which to do it. Speaking of which, I brought my LB35 with me. I'm waiting to see when I hit that wonderful threshold. Where it's actually efficient enough to use. You know, I wonder if... There's something I've always wondered about being a gamer, because I've been a gamer my whole life, right? And a video gamer at that. But I've also enjoyed tabletop a lot. You know, I played a lot of Warhammer 40k. I used to play old school BattleTech. I'm contemplating. I've got the video game of BattleTech that really kind of lays it out very similar to the old board game. I might do a series on that. I'm going into one of those modes where I'm like, nostalgia. But, and I've said this before, I think we lack rites of passage. I do. I think we lack rites of passage in our modern age. I think that we lack a purpose. And we have, as gamers, have found purpose, even if it's provided to us artificially. And there's utility in that. That's really important to think about. And it's not easy to parse from us finding purpose in our real life, because there are people who live their mundane lives just so they can play the game. Whatever game they're playing, whether it's WoW or Entropia or Borderlands or Journey or, and of course I'm naming all games I've played on my channel, but you know, shameless self-promotion there. But it doesn't matter what the game is. The game gives us a purpose because we have to accomplish the goal. And some games give you a goal, and other games make you come up with a goal. Minecrafters are famous for being able to come up with their own goals. But for some reason, a lot of them only can come up with a goal as long as they're in the game and cannot come up with a goal for themselves in their mundane lives. It's the same skill, kids. I say as I know that probably most of my audience are adults, but that's fine. It's folks. It's the same skill, folks. It's absolutely the same skill. You know, we can take the skills that we've built up over a life of being video gamers or just gamers in general. You know, D&D players can do this. D&D players, if I was in a position to hire people again, and someone mentioned that they play Dungeons and Dragons, I'd hire them in a heartbeat. The problem solving, the teamwork, all of those things are desperately necessary to be a successful Dungeons and Dragons player. And that would be one of my questions. It's like, how many successful campaigns have you had? You know, if I ever run a business, one of the questions would probably be, are you a gamer? Do you play D&D? Or do you play any of this list of games? And D&D would be on it, and EU would be on it, and WoW would be on it. Because all of them have situations where you must work as a team, and a lot of them have situations where you must work as a team with people you have never met. And there's an incredible amount of value in having the skill to work as a team with people you have never met. And that's what video gaming does. And in a game like EU, and I know I've mentioned this before, there's a tremendous amount of value in being able to work as part of a team with people you've never met who all come from different cultures. Why the hell aren't we taking advantage of this, guys? It blows my mind. And maybe I'm thinking this way because it's like 10:30 at night and, you know, I'm drinking, and it's just, we have so many things that we can do to make our lives better. And all we really have to do is reach out for it. I mean, it's there for us, right? I find it very interesting that we are playing a game that has a perfect economic model. And by perfect, I don't mean that, you know, that it doesn't have its problems. What I mean is that it actually functions. We don't experience hyperinflation because it has an actual currency. And it's an actual currency that has actual scarcity based upon what we put into it. You know, that's why WoW, economists look at WoW servers to figure out what would happen if, you know, money creation was based upon algorithm. There's no scarcity in a WoW game. You can just go farm gold. That's not how things work in real life. On the other hand, in Entropia universe, there is no unlimited money source. The money comes from what the players put into it. That's it. Das Ende. Or Das Finis. I don't know. I'm speaking too many different languages. But that's why the EU economy works so well. It's strictly supply and demand. And we can see exactly what the demand for a product is by this, the market value. And I know this is fucked up because I've used part of it. Let's look at this one. The market value. See, I can make 300% off of this. Which means it's worth about 30 pet. those amps are hard to come by. You can only get them from strong boxes. There's a scarcity to them. But at the same time, you know, if we compare that to, do I have the amp with me? I do not. Shit. I dumped it in the storage terminal. I have the rifle version of the life steal. I want to call it leech because that's what they call it in WoW, but it's life steal, right? Every time you hit, you gain a little bit of life. If you're full health, then it doesn't do any damage to the amp. Now, as it happens, it also comes with an evade increase, so I know I'm losing a little bit of value every time I evade a shot. Leastways, I believe that's how it works. There's just... The Entropia platform is perhaps the most complex game ever created, and we don't appreciate the fact that it is that way. But it's not complicated because of the engine. It's not complicated because of the controls. It's not complicated because of the challenge of fighting the mobs. It's complicated because it is a true simulation of real life. Or what it would be in this situation. And you can see the human psyche played out in interactions within the game. Psychologists would have a freaking field day with this game. So would economists. If we could get a team of psychologists and economists and say, here's Entropia Universe, come join us. And they all go, oh. Wow. We're going to be here for the next 50 years trying to figure out all the nuance that we discovered within this platform. The economists would be looking at the auction house with, well, frankly, they'd be looking at it like a goblin in WoW looks at money. Just rubbing their hands together saying, oh, I have so much research to do. I can make a fortune doing this just trading. Let's start with $100 and see where it gets us. And frankly, they'd probably make a fortune. Good for them. They should. Because this provides value. And being able to trade items on the auction provides value as well. And value is how you create profit. And profit is how we live our lives. And it's... I understand it's kind of a brutal philosophy. Thinking that, you know, if someone doesn't provide value, does that mean they starve? And the short answer is, in the long term, yes. But that doesn't mean they necessarily starve for food or starve for shelter. It means they starve for a need to complete themselves. A desire to make their lives better. And it's real easy for you to say, well, you know, it doesn't matter because things will never be better and I don't care about that. And, you know, I like where I am because it's a great place to be. And it's really not a great place to be, but you really, for the work you put in, it's a good place to be and you don't want to put in any more work, which is, you know, fair enough. It becomes geometrically harder to gain ground as you go. You know, that's the Pareto distribution. But the irony is that it also becomes geometrically easier, and so it kind of cancels each other out. Because success begets success. Every time you succeed at something, you get a little bit better at it. Every time you fail at something, you get a little bit better at it. But success begets success, and you ride up the Pareto distribution, and things tend to roll. So if things are starting to get worse, they're going to roll. If things get better, it's going to roll. And it just depends on what hill you're on, depending on what's going on in your life. And you can move yourself from the bad hill to the good hill, and it's tough, but you can do it. Moving from the good hill to the bad hill, that's stupid easy. You just have to ignore things for a while, and that happens. I mean, really. All you need to be successful is find some way to create some form of value. And that's as true in Entropia universe as it is in real life. If you want to see what'll happen, if you just try to, you know, ride through and avoid the responsibility, play EU non-depot and attempt to do it without sweating. Which pretty much means you're down to fruit walking. And see how far you get and for how long. And I don't mean concerted fruit walking. I'm talking just, you know, kind of wander around until you find it. Because concerted fruit walking is an actual thing you can do. You know, you kind of do things in a grid pattern like you'd search for something, which is exactly what fruit walking is. And considering fruit is one of the... is of the two things you can do for free, fruit has the most value because it's so scarce, but on the same token, it's only used for pets. I mean, you could decide to be any number of things in this game. And one of the things I thought of is you can actually be a farmer. You can. You might think I'm crazy for saying that, but think about it. You can buy a piece of property like in Ithaca. Or at the... Ithaca is some of the biggest properties. You can also come to Isle of Troy. There's some big properties on this island. Right? And then you gather together the pots you need in order to grow fruit. And then you can either mine the sweet stuff or you can buy it off someone who is a dedicated miner. So you're growing the fruit and you're mining, or you're just growing the fruit. And then you pick up a whip and you go and you tame bristle hogs. And then you do what I'm doing with my leprechaun and you're growing the bristle hogs to a certain level, after which you turn them into an essence. So you're harvesting them. Which is then useful to prime abilities on other pets. It's a thing you can do, and you can probably make a lot of money doing it. I don't know that anyone's doing it now. But go and try it. You know, I mean, you're talking about a lot of buildup for a possible payoff, but it's so niche, the likelihood that you're going to make money is much higher, or when you make a sale, the point of sale will be much higher than any other opportunity. It's like being a face sculptor. You want to make money in Entropia Universe? Offer face sculpting. I don't know that there's anyone left that does it. That is a global for 69 ped. $6.90, ladies and gentlemen. You know, there are plenty of ways to make money in this game if you're willing to put the time and the work in. You could make money from nothing without putting a penny in if you're willing to take the time. The problem is that the money you'd make in this game, compared to the amount of time you put into a job that pays minimum wage, is so small it makes it almost not worth it. I mean, except for the skills you gain so you can do other things. Now, you can sweat. You sweat mobs, you get the sweat, you sell the sweat. And then if you're smart, you use that sweat in order to buy deeds. Now you're getting money for nothing. Or more accurately, you're getting money for investment. Or you might buy Crystal Palace shares. And that's a good way to do it. And then you can use the ped from that in order to build your avatar up. Or you can use it to buy more shares. Currently, that's what my share and my deed money is going toward, is buying more shares. At some point, this will be self-sustaining. I haven't dumped as much cash in or has done as much time as either Serial Overdrive or War Spades, so I haven't taken anything out of it. But that's okay. What I have gotten out of this are skills. And I'm not just talking about in-game skills. I've gotten real-life skills out of this. You're like, well, what real-life skills have you gained out of this game? My patience for tedium has gone up by, like, some ridiculous amount. And you can chuckle at that, but that's a real skill to have. Tedium's no joke. You know, having to do things that you really don't want to do or not want to have to deal with. That's a real skill to have. The other thing I've gained is the ability to do things like this, make videos. If you want to see something raw, go back, go into my Entropia Universe playlist, and go all the way back to my first video. And actually, it should be at the top of the list because of the way that they add videos. Watch my first Entropia Universe video and then watch my most recent video again. Maybe not this one, but watch the one before it. And see the difference. Watch my first Mayhem videos. And just see the difference. It's like night and day. The sound quality is going to be different because I'm using a different kind of mic. Ignore that. Listen for the way I did the videos. You know, not the sound quality. Because I switched from using a headset mic to using a Yeti Blue, a Blue Yeti. A Yeti Blue. Blue's the name of the manufacturer. Yeti's the name of the model. Come on, Julian, you can do this. But just listen to the way that I did things. Or better yet, just listen to watch the whole series of We Happy Few. And I'm not saying that just because of the desire to, you know, increase my watch time hours. I got plenty of watch time hours at this point. I need the subscribers. And while that was a shameless plug, it wasn't an intentional one. But listen to the quality of video for my... So watch the first We Happy Few video and the last We Happy Few video. And then compare both of those to my most recent Borderlands video. Or watch my first Entropia Universe video and the most recent EU video that is not this one. And then think about the changes that have happened in that, the changes that had to happen in that time for the level of quality to develop to the point that it is now. And I'm not saying that to brag, because I still have a long way to go. You know, I'm not Serial Overdrive level yet. I'm working on that. And when it comes to my my Let's Plays, I'm nowhere near like a Christopher Odd level. I love to be, but I'm not. What it means is that I've developed the skills and they're getting better. Just like I grind skills in Entropia Universe. These are all things we can do. These are traits that we have as gamers. Navigating this world that we live in. Virtual or not. And really, I've said it before, I don't like using the term virtual to describe things like EU or WoW. Not because it's not technically true, but because of the connotation that it's fake. We tend to use the term virtual to mean fake. rather than digital. And I think that's a disservice to ourselves. Because there's nothing fake about the interactions in these games. People find love in games. Like literal love. I'm not just talking loving the game. I'm talking about finding spouses, life companions. I found my life companion because I played World of Warcraft. And no, that is not a joke. No, we have been dating for 5.5 years. Well, 5 years and 4 months. And yes, we've met in person. But we met because at one point I was playing WoW and I ended up with a roommate. And the roommate played WoW. And I wanted to run dungeons, but you have to run dungeons in a group. And so I'm like, I want to do this, but there's no one to play with. And he's like, you know what? We need a healer. I know a person. And he called her in. And that's how we kind of met. And later on, we met in person. And that we ended up dating. And we're still dating today. We met each other and we liked each other. And for a while, it didn't end up happening. And then we ended up dating like 3 years later. Well, 2.5. Because we've known each other for 7 years. We've been dating for 5. And it's too late for me to do math because it's like 10:45 and I don't give a shit to do math. Sorry about the tangents. I'm all over the place tonight, but the point is that these games are so much more real than we really give them credit for. They are. There's more to our personalities in the game than we ever give them credit for. Because we can be our true selves here. The person in the other avatar is not going to know who we are in real life. They're not going to be we don't know that they're going to be the person that might be sitting across from us at a desk tomorrow. Or that we might be stocking shelves with. For all we know, they're across the globe. They could be in Russia. I mean, that's a literal truth. I have played with people from Russia in Entropia universe. Half the time, the Russians know English better than I do. And I'm a native speaker. Okay, so that's not entirely true, but you know what I mean. There's a technical aspect to this that's just incredible. The guile that we have to put the masks we put on in our day-to-day lives can come off when we are doing something like this. And so, it begs the question, do we have to always wear the mask? Why do we wear the masks? And for some people, it's like, well, if we don't wear the mask, then people are going to ridicule us. But is it because they see us not wearing our mask and they feel guilty for not wearing theirs? Or for wearing theirs? And they want to let their mask off, but they can't? And it gives so much more poignancy to the masks worn in We Happy Few, because they wear those white masks. And they're always smiling. But talk about a metaphor for real life, right? Who do you show your true self to? I mean, honestly, take stock of who you show your true self to. For most of us, we show it to our spouse, and we show it to our kids. We don't even show it to our parents after we turn like 16. And we might have a select group of friends that we show our true selves to. But then you get into a game, and you're hidden behind the mask of an avatar in the safe anonymity of a pseudonym, a fake name. Like in this game, if I wasn't a YouTuber, everyone would only know me as Kenichi Kamadake. For all they know, I'm Japanese. Which, to be fair, the avatar was named after a character in a book that I wrote. Well, I joint wrote. I was actually reading it earlier tonight, which is hilarious because that's what makes it so that I'm recording this at 10:30 rather than at, say, 8:30, which was my original plan. I got sucked into reading a book that I wrote. How sad and narcissistic is that? But, I mean, honestly, it's good to review the things that you've written. And the fact that I can still be engaged by something that I wrote with help almost a decade ago. More than a decade ago. Holy shit, it was more than a decade ago. God, I'm old. Is really heartening. I mean, it's been edited over the years, and I have a draft that's incomplete that is another re-edit that eventually I need to finish. That I started at the beginning of this year and never finished. Because, you know, that's how I operate. I'm an Aries. I start things really well and really strong, and then I stop. Because it just kind of fizzles. And that's why I've been so hard on myself to make sure I'm producing content for this channel. I needed to be able to prove to myself that I could consistently do things like create content over time, and that's what this is about. Lost my train of thought. You know, it's interesting. I think there's real value in these virtual worlds that we really haven't explored yet. And I know I've mentioned this before, and I'm hoping that I'm not repeating myself ad nauseum throughout these lectures. This is basically turning into a lecture forum for me, doing these think pieces, and I need to go back and I need to look at all of the various think pieces I've done for Entropia Universe, and I've created a special playlist for them, and there's only one freaking video in it for... It's like the philosophy of Entropia Universe. There's one video in it. But I've been doing think pieces for, I think, close to a month now. And I think there's a lot of value to be explored in the idea that we don't know what we don't know about a digital platform like this and how it truly affects how we operate. Because there's clinical evidence that playing too many games on a video platform affects how children develop. But we don't know how it affects adults. Right? Things affect children differently than they affect adults, because as adults, our brains aren't so plastic. They don't change very readily. But at the same time, there's real utility in knowing that being someone who spends most of their time in a digital world is going to be different than someone who spends all of their time in the analog one. And I think there's utility in knowing where to strike the balance. I think is the thing that we need to figure out. Like, where's the line? What is the line? Does there need to be a line? And of course there needs to be a line. Everything needs to have a line. There is a point where anything you do will be self-destructive in some way. Right? And that's I think that's kind of a stoic way of looking at things, but at the same time it's also a very useful one. Everything in moderation. If you play too much Entropia Universe, you're going to dump all your money in it so you can continue to play, and then you're going to be dead broke. And maybe you can only live on ramen. Maybe you'll miss your rent payments and you're out of an apartment, and then you can't play because you fucked up. But at the same time, you need the stress relief that a game like this provides you. And so you go to work and you earn your money, and you put enough of your money into the game that it provides you with the endorphin rush you need in order to continue to do your job. And thus you find meaning in your life because you're working in order to play the game, but you're also using the game in order to get better at what you do for work. And so it's a self-perpetuating cycle, and it all builds up. I never really thought about it that way. That's kind of a unique way to look at it. I truly think there is more to this than we really give it credit for. By a long shot. And over the course of 2020, which we're moving into, there are other things I intend to do with Entropia, but I think these think pieces are going to become very, very normal. Because I think there's a lot that we have yet to discover about ourselves, and I think we can explore those things while we're in the digital world. And I think the reason we can do that is because the digital world is safe. It doesn't matter what we fuck up in the digital world. You can always hit the reset button. And if there's autosave, you can always start over. I'm starting to think I should try one of those really primitive survival games. And what I mean by primitive survival is the game itself is not primitive, but it forces you to live in a place where humans used to live at one time in our existence. So like Farscape Primal would be an example. I've never played Farscape Primal. I don't own Farscape Primal. Not Farscape. Wow, Farscape is a freaking show. Far Cry. Far Cry Primal. Shit. Far Cry Primal, or like Horizon Zero Dawn, where you're forced to live in a much harder circumstance because we don't have the technology we have today with which to operate. And I do believe that being forced to contend with the restrictions that we have in those situations is something very useful to think about. Especially if they don't oversimplify things, right? Like, Rust is a good example. I've watched, oh, here's our Hispidus. I've watched episodes of Serial Overdrive series on Rust. And it's very, very, well, for lack of a better term, it's very, very primal. If you think about it, because you literally start with nothing and you need to gather shit from around the world to create everything you need in order to survive. And yes, you have access to some modern technology once you get to a certain point, because you can do things like acquire a gun, which may not be available to you if you're playing a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, where guns are... Well, no, because guns exist in Horizon Zero Dawn because you can salvage them off of things or off of other people. But if you take a game like Far Cry Primal, where you're in an ancient time, and I've never played the game, and so I'm assuming that you can't access any modern technology, and it's not some like post-apoc alternative future opportunity type thing like Horizon Zero Dawn is. And I'm not criticizing Horizon, because I've watched a Let's Play series by Christopher Odd, which I recommend for everyone, but I've never played the game myself. But it's not a sort of retrofuturism. It's strictly a more historical look at things. And I think there's some importance to looking at the way life has been in the past. Wow. Okay, guys, I'm gonna leave it there for tonight. I think there's more to explore, but I don't have the ginger to do it. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe down below. We are on the road to 13 million subscribers, one subscription at a time. So make sure you subscribe. And for a second, I thought his ass was hanging out. Guys, thank you so much for all of your support. You all have a wonderful night.